Welcome back, everybody, to Razzpuytin Gaming presents King Arthur Knight's Tale. Let's continue along on our current campaign. We're actually not going to do any advancing on the campaign today. We are going to be talking about morality and your knights and things like that to help you get a better understanding before you get too deep into the game of where you are and where you want to be. So let's pop open the morality chart right here. So you've already had to make one decision, whether it's a tyrant decision or the rightful decision. And pardon me if I call it righteous, that's what I'm in a habit of doing anyways. But this represents the entirety of Mordred's alignment because he is the main hero of the game. You actually don't have to play with him through every mission or even finish the campaign with him, but he's going to be around for like 90% of the missions he's required. So let's talk in depth about the choices, and let's talk about the one we had to make first, the Tyrant and Rightful, and the differences therein. So if you go on the Rightful side, you are dealing mostly with buffers. So even Sir Lancelot has a lot of buffing, Flaming Sword. He has Inspire, I believe, which helps buff your party. Same with Sir Geraint, Sir Leo de Grasse, Sir Lucan as well. These are all heroes that can do buffing. On this side, you're going to have the debuffing. So Sir Dagonet, he's a sage. The Black Knight, the Red Knight, and Sir Damas. So that's what you kind of get on this side of it. And then the global effects, if you will, are building upgrades. You can see skill points for Rightful and Christian heroes. Decrees can be used 1 mission sooner, so that's a cooldown on those. You get mental debuff to all Rightful and Old Faith heroes. Building upgrades for an enchanted tower cost 20% less gold in building resources, and you can receive double XP from events. This, although sounds good and is good, it takes a while to get to because 15 Old Faith will take you almost all the way to Act 3 to obtain. So these are the other ones that you can qualify for, and then these are the passives, right, that we've talked about that just happened for you. And then these events in the circles are things that can happen. So you can unlock medicines, which vitality healing is increased by 50% per mission for the free treatment. So it allows you to save some gold by healing faster. 10% damage reduction for the heroes when you unlock this decree, the Reforge Armor, and the Joust decree, which organizes joust forwarding the timer by 1 mission's time. Now this is actually a very, very powerful ability, or let's just call it ability that you can get in your decrees. And it is probably the single most driving factor for being a rightful Christian playthrough, because what this allows you to do is you can put all your injured heroes in the cathedral, or all your vitality loss heroes in the hospice that you have available, and you can fill up the training grounds with anybody you want to train. You organize this joust, and 1 mission's time automatically goes by. So anybody that can level in 1 mission of training or be healed in 1 mission, all that stuff happens and you haven't even gone on a mission. So on some of your playthroughs, and you might consider this on your very hard playthrough, is to be playing on the Rightful Christian side so that you have this ability. The uptime on this is not 100%, it's only 20%. It takes 5 missions for it to reset. But every 5 missions, you can do a full clear of all the mission sets, which is super powerful. So you might consider that as part of when you're going Old Faith or Christian and Rightful Tyrant, because you want to be in one of these quadrants as much as you can, because the best benefits are always farther out. So even though this one is 5/5, if you ever drop below it, you lose this ability. It's not like you gain this and it's always there, and then you can come over here and gain this one and go around the clock face. You can't do that clockwise or counterclockwise. It just doesn't happen that way. So as we mentioned, that's for the Rightful and the Tyrant. I will make some comments about choosing this way. Lancelot is probably the second best champion in the game. He's a very, very strong champion, and it will be very powerful in a lot of your playthroughs as you go through as a Rightful leader, whether you pick Christian or Old Faith, because you see his morality is only on the righteous side. Doesn't matter which way you go, right or left to him. But you can pick up these other ones. And by the way, in the end game, and especially on the harder difficulty, we'll talk about this with classes, but marksmen aren't so strong, and Sir Geraint is a marksman. So you're losing a recruitable here by coming on this side, and Sir Lucan is pretty weak himself, and so is Leo de Grasse. So outside of Lancelot, going the Rightful way really for heroes is a pretty weak choice, because you're going to have to play with neutral heroes or mixed aligned heroes, or the ones that you naturally come by, which aren't as strong as these ones you gain on the morality chart. The ones that are farther away, so like a required morality 13, Old Faith 13, Christian 13, and Tyrant 13. These are some of the strongest, if not the strongest, heroes in their particular categories. So you want to understand what your playstyle is, or where you want to be with your heroes that you're going to recruit, by also picking Rightful and Tyrant. I personally, as I mentioned earlier in the other episode, that debuffing I find to be stronger than buffing. Not by a huge margin, maybe 15% or so, but if you're going to play on very hard difficulty and all the way through to the end, that 15% really, really matters. So that's why I would pick on this side of the tree, but you're certainly welcome to play however works for you. And then these restocking laws, this is pretty good at the end of the game when you're trying to get those special relics that you need to be as powerful as you can be. Same here, you get vitality 50% faster. This is not as good as this one. This one is really particularly powerful. Heroes learn 50% faster on the training ground. And then extra law. This one is that missions yield 10% more gold. In the beginning of the game, you're kind of going to be gold starved, so this isn't huge. It doesn't matter. It's going to take you to Tyrant 18, which is Act 4, to get this. But at that point, getting an extra 10, 15, 20% more gold, it means huge numbers. You're talking possibly as much as 1,000 gold more, which is a big deal. So I find this one to be more impactful at the end of the game, and this one is probably second, maybe even third to this one. But we're talking about Rightful and Tyrant, so I think this is stronger than this one, and Lancelot is second strongest. So as a champion, and you might want to know, who does he come in second to? Well, he comes in second to the Black Knight, which you can recruit on the Tyrant side. It also has one of the most powerful defenders, and that's the Red Knight. This guy is an evil, bad dude, and if you are offensive minded, he is an offensive defender. Can't do a lot of taunting and protection, but he can whip the ass of the enemies that are right in front of you. And so he fits a lot of play styles, especially at the end game, by the way, because a lot of the end game is not about rushing in and fighting the enemy on their terms. It's sitting back, setting up your defenses, your overwatch, your kill cycles, getting Inspire and a bunch of stuff done, so that when the enemy advances on you, you can do a clean sweep of them. And in this game and on the Discords and a lot of other places, a sweep is like a full clear of all the enemies in one turn, which is quite possible with the Black Knight. It's also possible with the White Knight, but that's on the Christian and Old Faith side. So you can make a build that is especially strong with the Black Knight. And the thing that I like over him more than, let's say, the White Knight, who's a very close second, is the Black Knight has the jump ability, which allows him, I think they actually call it leap for him, which allows you to avoid opportunity attacks, areas of controls, AOCs by the enemies, that when you move next to them, they're going to get an opportunity attack if you move through them. So he's the only champion that has that, which makes him kind of overpowered. That he can jump around, jump to the back lines, he can avoid opportunity attacks, and just proceed to slaughter a lot of enemies. And then Sir Dagonet is a especially powerful sage. He has some good AoE effects, Desecrated Ground, which is a nice 3x3 square that causes weakness and slowing, which really helps your enemies get piled up really close together, which allows his abilities to clean house and allows your tank, whether it's Mordred or the Red Knight or somebody else, Sir Gawain maybe, to be holding all the enemies right in front and setting them up for a clean sweep of them. So the Peleus is a knight as well as two that you can gain. I'll talk about knights, or your heroes in particular, about which ones are which and how they fit into the builds, but you can see from here. So he's pretty strong, and Sir Damas is reasonable. He's a marksman, though, opposite of Sir Geraint. These two are opposite. Kind of like they try to make these two opposite, but Sir Lucan is an arcanist and Sir Dagonet is a sage. So that is what's on this side in the way of heroes. You can see plus 10% gold awarded for missions. If you're playing on the Christian Tyrant side, extra gold. This is merchant cost reduced. You get 2 additional loyalty for Old Faith and Tyrant heroes out here. So I think there was one up here. Plus 1 skill point. But over here you get loyalty, which is probably the better item, because with higher loyalties comes more damage and more AP. Relic Dust. This is especially powerful. This is what you use to buy some of the best gear in the game. So getting 20% extra relic dust from sacrificed items at the end of the game is strong. And then physical debuffs. Physical debuff is somewhat better than mental debuff. So things like stuns and weaknesses and things like that, frozens, chills, that's physical debuffs. There's other mental ones on the other side. So here you get the 20% and here 20% to physical. I find physical more important. So that's another reason to go on the Tyrant side. You can also get loyalty to heroes, this person gold decree. And you can see the second half of this, plus 1 extra loyalty to all heroes with negative loyalty value. So one of the heroes that's tough to have good loyalty with is Lady Guinevere. She has the trait that's disloyal, which means she starts at a -3 already. So if she's at a -3 and you have this one, this ability right here, you can unlock this decree and then you get plus 2 loyalty for her or anybody else with negatives. And then all your heroes get plus 1. And loyalty at the end matters a lot because you get 20% damage and an extra AP. And AP is king in the end game. Here, wartime levies, this is tough because you're reducing loyalty. You get a bunch of gold, but it's pretty rough. Restock merchant supply and discounted 20%, but delayed by 2 missions. So that's kind of what's happening here. We already talked about those. So that's kind of your opposing forces here between Tyrant and Rightful. I find for the most powerful gameplay, especially if you're playing on the very hardest levels, if you're playing on very hard or hard, Tyrant is probably the way to go. Although there is a case to be made for getting Joust, which requires you to be in this quadrant over here, Christian and Rightful. A lot of first-timers playthroughs, since we're talking about it, happen on the Rightful Old Faith side, because this is where a lot of the heroes are that you recruit at the beginning of the game. They're either neutral or they're on this side. So they're already loyal to you and will be boosted by your loyalty if you're going this way. I think on the King Arthur Knight's Tale Discord, it was something like 55% of people started on this one. And then this one was next, Tyrant Old Faith. But almost all of the Old Faith Tyrant builds were used in Hard and Very Hard. It's just a better group of heroes. All right, so enough about Tyrant and Rightful. Let's talk about Christian and Old Faith. So these two are opposing in the types of heroes that you get. On this side, you're getting a lot of Sword of Board, defenders, champions, not a lot of magic users. That comes from the Old Faith side. You have one Arcanist, and that's Sir Lucan. Otherwise, you're recruiting Sir Galahad, tank, White Knight, champion. Sir Damas is a marksman. And then you have all the neutral ones too, or on the 0 axis. If you don't move up or down on the Tyrant side, you have these guys. But as you move further and further out here, you're probably going to move up and down. In the early parts of the game, there's a lot more Tyrant and Rightful decisions than there are Christian and Old Faith. And you're going to be in one of these quadrants anyways. So it's, even though I'm talking about the opposing sides of the alignment crosshair, don't forget that it is going to be quadrant based. And then on the Old Faith side, you're going to have Sir Bedivere. He's a Vanguard. I already mentioned Sir Dagonet, who is a Sage. Lady Morgana, who's a Sage. The best one in the game, in my opinion, even better than Merlin. Merlin and Morgase and Lady Morgase and the Fairy Knight are all second to her, in my opinion. And those are spread out on this side of the tree. But she is by far and away, in my opinion, the most powerful Sage. And then you can also, we talked about Sir Bedivere already. And then we talked about this. Heroes learn 50% faster on the training ground. At the end game, it's tough to keep all your heroes leveled up. You're going to have your A team that you're going to be running most of the time, and you'll have your B team, your backups, your fill-ins at the training grounds training all the time. And there's some heroes that are good for that, that'll help, like Sir Mordred. If he's in charge of the training ground, all heroes get a percentage of the mission experience, whether they've been, for all the heroes that did not participate in the mission, get some of the mission experience. And then you can boost that by putting them in the training ground and 50% faster. Because it's pretty much game over for your playthrough if you don't keep your bench leveled up. It's very, very important. So at times you're going to want to mix your bench in. You're going to want to make sure you're recruiting heroes at the highest level. When you recruit Lady Morgana, she comes in at level 13, which is particularly high. By the time you're ready to recruit her, her mission is level 13, but it plays like a level 14, level 15. It's a really, really hard mission. It comes in Act 3, along with the mission to recruit the Red Knight. These two missions, by the way, will really let you know if you're ready for the game at the end game or not. So that's kind of those things we talked about. This XP, so if you're playing on this side, you can get a couple of these that really boost your leveling chances. Old Faith, you get the Hospice and Cathedral treatments one turn faster. We talked about wartime levy decrease on this side. So that's this side. Christian side, like I said, you have Sir Galahad, who's a reasonable tank. I think there's better ones in the game than him. And then the White Knight, who is probably on par with, or maybe better than Lancelot. Lancelot's probably the second best because in team play he's got Inspire and some things like that. From pure DPS output, the White Knight will be better than him, and Black Knight will beat them both. So you'll want to think about that on this side when you're going to the Christian side. Gold rewards for missions, skill points for Rightful or Christian heroes. That's really nice, but it's only 1 point. Injury time is reduced, and then relic dust from sacrificed items. So, and when it talks about unlocked ancient method building development, that's when you're upgrading your buildings. By the way, this becomes available to upgrade. So you can see the advantages on these two sides, particularly fond of the Tyrant Old Faith build. That's how I started before I had in-depth knowledge of the game, and I think it was the right decision then. And on our redo playthrough, oh, that even rhymed, we're going this route again, but I will spend more time explaining the builds as we go through them, why we're doing them, the way we're doing them, which heroes we're calling our A team and which are our B teams, and which you still want to have for their facility abilities, because those things matter as well. You might wind up with a misaligned hero because of their facility skill, and that's important too. I will cover that in another video before we get too deep into the game. Maybe even the next one. I'd like to talk about heroes, but definitely will be in the next two. So before I conclude here, don't forget to friend and follow us on Twitch. I'm streaming this game almost daily, so you want to click on the notifications if or add me as a friend and follow on Twitch, and you'll find out exactly when I'm streaming this game. This I'm recording it. I'm not streaming live because there's no action here. We're sitting on one screen with some gothic music playing in the background. And by the way, this is Sir Mordred's picture, digging his armor. It's almost worth playing him all the way through just for his cool ass armor. And then if you're on YouTube, like these videos. I really do appreciate that. It doesn't cost you anything. Hit the like button. It helps the algorithm, gets a chance for more people to view the videos and get helped out by this content. And then subscribe to the channel, and that helps me out personally, helps the channel out personally. I'm a one-man army here with all the content I'm trying to put out for you guys. Generally, the main thing I like to do is be putting out platinum trophy content for the PlayStation system, but occasionally I dip into these really cool PC games, these RPG games like this one, CRPG games. That's really the style of game I like best. So you can help out my channel a bunch by subscribing. It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't do anything to your YouTube channels. You can just check under the subscribe feature in your table of contents there and look me up at any time, and we'll have stuff there. So to conclude, my first recommendation is if you are playing on normal, and even if you're playing on the roguelite instead of classic where you can save scum, but even if you're playing on the roguelite and normal, my advice first playthrough is pick something that appeals to you. If this side appeals to you, then go for it. There's not bad choices here. The game is fairly well balanced, except for a couple key points, which I'll point out through my video series as we get there. One of those is going from Act 2 to Act 3. The difficulty is not a ramp, it's a spike. Similar, if you want to say, to like the Eve learning curve, right? If you've ever played that MMO Eve, except instead in Eve, the learning curve's right at the beginning. In this one, it's right in the middle of the game. But go ahead, there's nothing wrong with doing that. These are games, remember, and you should play it the way you like. And you get like Sir Lancelot and some good heroes over here to do things. If you want to be on this side, that's playable too. This is a lot of people play this side. This side is an easier side to play on your first time through. And this is probably the most powerful side. Definitely, in my opinion, this is the most powerful quadrant because of the Red Knight, the Black Knight, and Lady Morgana. And some of the most powerful heroes, Lady Morgase, falls into this side as well. And Sir Dagonet, he's really, really good sage as well. So that's it about alignments. If you have questions, drop it in the comment section. Would really appreciate it. Hit that like button, the subscribe button, and we will catch you next time with the next video. And I'll probably talk about buildings next, and then we'll discuss heroes and go into some spreadsheet action to help you finalize which heroes, now that you know what you want to do on the morality side, which doesn't really affect your gameplay, by the way. It does affect how you play, but it doesn't affect the game or the decisions in the game or getting to the end, by the way. It's just the manner in which you get there is all. All right, so with all that being said, let me say one more time, don't forget to friend and follow us on Twitch. If you're on YouTube, like the videos, and please, please, please subscribe to the channel. Much appreciated. That's all for us now. This is Raz, I'm your host. I am out. You guys be safe, and I will catch you next time. Take care.